Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for round 2 of the PowerF1 Series 6 Championship. I'm your host, at least for another week. I know I said I was only here for 1 week, but lucky me, I'm here for another. I'm your host, Lars, and unfortunately I'm flying solo for commentary this time. George is not present with me, but hopefully it'll still be a good race regardless. We welcome you, of course, to the legendary Silverstone circuit, what many would call the home of Formula 1. Been through a few revisions over the years, but still the same glorious racetrack with a lot of heritage and history behind it. And hopefully we will be adding to that history with a classic Grand Prix here with the pro drivers. Just to remind you, on the grid here we have Aussie, Gamma B, Mike, Upper Banan, Tixie, TC Gaming, Catastrophius, who could not join us last week but has shown up this time round, Holiest Tester, James Taylor, Casito, JTK, who also I believe wasn't here last week, Pewis Liper, a reserve who is standing in, Jan Shadow, or Shadhow, Next Phase, Duncan, Magnetic, Rickety, and Roy, who also wasn't here last week. So a couple of new faces, but mostly the same crew we got to know in Spain. We're here on a typically cloudy British day. Not 100% sure of the weather. If someone gets a free moment in the team radio, hopefully they will tell me. But we are currently following Mike in the Red Bull. Last time he was in the Ferrari. Whether the change of car will help his battling skills any remains to be seen. But he's currently on his outlap. And we'll hopefully get team radio up, as I like to call it. My little name for the Discord. No one's saying anything just yet, but we will get the track map up. And hopefully we can get a nice little on board. We won't be able to get it this time, but we'll hopefully take you through the circuit at a later point. And I have got the track map up, but we'll see the rest later on. I was going to say Mike will be the first. In fact, Mike will still be the first to sell up. I saw the McLaren just ahead, but the cars slowly making their way out as Mike has apparently invalidated his lap. You can see the map has gone red there, so I believe it'll be Upper Banan who is first to set a lap. And we've got a range of tyre compounds out there at the minute. A couple of drivers actually out on the intermediates. Not sure if that's just trying to be brash and showing off, but it's brave from some of them. And actually, do you know what? We'll get the, since it's quiet on track and these are not going to be representative times for the whole session, we'll get the track run through out of the way early on. We'll ride on board with Tixie for an onboard lap of Silverstone. So we come out of Club Corner and onto the Hamilton Straight, across the start-finish line, into the fast right-hander at Abbey. You can go as brave as you dare, and Tixie has immediately run wide there, but I think he's going to carry on anyway. Through Farm and up to Village, this long, quite tight right-hander, heading very quickly into the loop. An eternally feeling left-hander. Another quick left at Aintree as we head down the Wellington Straight. Watch on the right-hand side for the building, that's your braking point. Through the Brooklands complex, left, then a long right-hander at Luffield. Out through Woodcote, which is actually a corner, it's that small little flick to the right. Heading past the old pit straight up to the legendary Cops Corner. Be as brave as you dare, don't run wide on exit, you will get penalised for it. And then a small straight into Maggots at the left-hander and Beckett's at the next left-hander. Again, watch out that you don't run wide on exit at Beckett's and head through Chapel onto the Hangar Straight, so called because of course Silverstone used to be an airfield once upon a time. Up to Stowe Corner. Back in 1999, Schumacher's brakes failed there and he broke his leg, which kind of ruined his 1999 season. And Tixie is bailing for the pits at Vale, but at that point then it would just be going through Club Corner again and onto the Hamilton Straight to start again. So that was an on-board lap of most of Silverstone. Looking at the times on the board in a minute, we have the two Williams, TC Gaming the fastest at the minute, followed by Casito, his teammate, Upper Banan in third, and Holiest Tester currently in fourth. Looks like we have Aussie coming around to complete lap. We've also got the Ferrari of Catastropheus on the lap. He will actually be next to cross the line. And just checking the team radios again. No sign of anyone telling me about the weather. What was that old song again? Everyone's always talking about the weather. Here, no one's talking about the weather. But Catastropheus will cross the line and will go fastest with 126.644. We did also have, that was Holiest, just stopping dead on the track. He appears to have run out of fuel, and he's staying in 8th gear for some reason. Not quite sure what the logic is in that. But whatever floats his boat, as Aussie completes a lap and is the first driver to break into the 1 minute 25s. A reminder that we have more than 15 drivers, so we're doing full quali, which means at the end of the session, players from 16th place and down will be eliminated. Now, not every driver has had a lap, of course, but at the minute, if it were to finish as is, that would mean Duncan, Magnetic, Rickety and Roy would be eliminated. And we've had a few upsets before. You recall, obviously, last week in Spain, that it was Persegili, who unfortunately is not here this week. It was Persegili who blew up in Q1. And that cost him his race, effectively, because he had to spend so much time fighting back. Mike is currently on outlap and he's invalidated his outlap. Imagine invalidating an outlap. Somehow. Next phase is also invalidated. We've got quite a few that have invalidated there. And most drivers, it seems, just making their way back to the pits. Just trying to find, we do have, that's one of the Red Bulls, that will be Mike starting his lap. Magnetic is just behind him, so it will be Mike who's next to actually do a lap. And we'll see what he is capable of as he begins his run. Call it OP, call it what you will. You have to admit the Red Bull is a beautiful car. Not so much in terms of the paint job, although it is still a nice paint job if it hasn't changed at all, but just the flow of the car. It's lovely to watch, just driving around. And Mike setting a purple sector 1 as he comes round and heads onto the old pit straight, a little bit wide towards the exit, but he kept it within track limits. And surprisingly, most drivers have not even left the garage yet. A lot of them potentially maybe going for 2, maybe even only 1 run. 3 Maggots and Beckett's, a small correction. But looking clean so far. And there was a purple sector 2 as well, so this is looking good for Mike. Maybe just going to do the 1 run and leave it at that. He is coming around to complete his lap. Clipping the curb nicely. And across the line, it's actually not pole, it's still the 126s. It's a good lap, don't get me wrong, but that's surprising. Magnetic, the best he can manage is a 127, and it was invalid as well. So that's no good. Got one of the Alpines coming around to start a lap, as well as that should be next phase, who will be next to cross the line, and he goes to P3. A lot of drivers in this 126 early 127 bracket. looks promising, as we see Tixie getting a slipstream from the unwilling Aston Martin. Presumably that's of, well, it could be Gamma B or Roy, they're both on an outlap. As Tixie comes round the final bend, our winner of course last time out, and stamps his authority with pole 3/10 quicker. And it is going to be Roy that was crossing the line there. Shadhow is on his lap. Duncan in the number 69 car, or the nice car as I would call it. Obviously not saying a proper lap there. A 1 minute 46 is not representative of his pace. As we've got a couple of yellows all over the track. Let's get back to Roy, because it should be him that's next to put a time on the board. It's a much more quiet stream tonight, not only because the drivers are much more spaced out, but of course I'm sitting solo, so I miss my commentary, buddy. Looks like a smooth effort from the Aston. Purple sector 2 it says there, but I don't know if that is true or not. We've got what looks to be an Alpha Tauri in the gravel. That was Duncan, as he comes back on the track with what looks to be quite a bit of spray. So whether the track is damp from a previous session, I'm not too sure. But Roy comes across the line and goes P2. We've got just under 6 minutes of quali left, and still 6 drivers have not put a time on the board. They're coming around to rectify that now. First of all will be Jan, and he's good enough for P4. Who else is coming around? Gamma B. What can he do? Currently 15th, without a time on the board, goes to P3. Good on him. JTK also going to cross the line. And that will knock out the first driver directly into the dropout zone, which will be Duncan. Because of course, 3 drivers yet to set a time. As JTK takes second. So the entire field, with the exception of Duncan, who didn't set a representative time, covered by less than 2 seconds. Which is good to see. It gives us the promise of good battles throughout the field. Looking at the tyre combines, everyone did do that on the soft, so the pace is comparable across the field, which is good to see. James Taylor and Puis Leiper are on outlaps. The only one who's not left the pits is Rickety. He's still got time, there's 4 minutes left. But you know, it's not panic stations or anything. As next phase retires from the session, that's a bit brave. He's only P9. There's still plenty of opportunity for drivers to improve, but he thinks he's done enough. Ozzy thinks he's done enough as well. Now he's a bit more confident. He's in P5. That's both Alfa Romeos retiring. Wonder if that was a coordinated effort. As James Taylor begins his attempt to get out of that bottom 5. And Jan also retiring. And Tixie, both McLarens at the same time. Teammates obviously having discussions. JTK retiring. Lots of drivers retiring now. So, and Rickety's still in the pits. He's just leaving now. As soon as I say that, he's going to get one run, and that's it. And he better hope to the good Lord above that it's enough. So, who's looking in danger right now? If James and Pierce and Rickety all improve, that would mean, gosh, even though I would say up to, well, even potentially next phase isn't safe. Of course, a lot of it depends on how much the track has evolved, but James Taylor's gone up to P5. Upper Banan, who's on the cusp, is improving, if marginally. And we've also got Pewis Liper coming towards the line. As around comes the Alpine and goes up to P13. So Casito's on the cusp. Pewis Liper goes up to P9. So, in the drop zone we have TC Gaming, Casito, Holiest Tester, Duncan and Rickety. But Rickety has yet to say a time. As Holiest had backed off his lap, he is starting his final run now. We'll keep an eye on these bottom 5. Duncan is also starting his final run. Then it's the two Williams, who are going through the final sector together. So who's getting the slipstream? It'll be Casito getting the slipstream. Maybe feeling he needs a bit more of a boost than TC does. Let's see, sector times. 10th improvement. And Duncan with a 15-second improvement, but that's because obviously he didn't set a comparative lap time. Let's see. TC Gaming should come round and complete his first sector before these guys hit sector 2. I mean, a 10th improvement isn't bad from Holiest Tester, but it's not going to be enough to save him. 2/10 improvement for TC Gaming. And nearly 3/10 for Casito. That's looking promising, as one shark joins the lobby for some reason. Holiest Tester in the second sector. 2/10 up. Duncan. 17.2 up. This is a massive improvement from him, but I'm trying to work out the maths here real quick. I'm not too sure if it's going to be enough. Now, I think these guys might make it to the finish line before these guys hit sector 2. Will they just? Well, we'll see them as they come across the line, of course. Holiest Tester across the line, only P15. TC improves by half a second. Casito only by 2/10. Where did Duncan go up to P13, actually? So Holiest Tester is out. That's confirmed. TC Gaming, half a second up. Should be good enough to get him through if he keeps it clean. He comes to the line, and it's P12. Casito to the line. Oh, and he's invalidated, and that's Casito out then. Rickety on his run. Upper Banam is in the drop zone as well. So Casito and Holiest are confirmed to be out. If Rickety jumps up here, he knocks out Magnetic. Rickety does indeed push Magnetic in the drop zone. Magnetic is bailed. Magnetic is out. It's all down to Oper. Can he knock Duncan back down? Around the final corners. It's not enough, I don't think. It's not enough. Oper is out. Duncan just survives by 0.03 of a second. So, your bottom 4 are eliminated. That's Magnetic, Upper Banam, Holiest Tester, and Casito in the Williams. First blood to Tixie. But at the end of the day, he really only had to do one run, and that was it. So, now we start getting a bit more tense. Poor old Castillo, the only driver in the 127s. Don't know if he just had a scruffy lap or what happened, but that's a shame. There's your confirmation of the times. And just to see our bottom 4. I mean, the whole field's still covered by 1.5 seconds, which is bloody impressive. but it's not enough for our bottom 4, I'm afraid. As we move on to Q2. Team radio, no one is really saying anything. It's all very quiet. And who will be heading out of the garage first? 15 minutes. We'll lose another 5 drivers. Who's it going to be? As we have our first driver out on the track, that'll be TC Gaming, followed by James Taylor and Duncan. Gamma B saying to JTK that you have grip hacks. The answer to that is, I hope not, but probably most likely. Jan has reported to me that we might get rain at the end of the race again, as we did in Spain. So that promises to offer some excitement. Everyone out on the softs, except for Shadow, who's on the inters for some reason. Lord only knows why. And we'll wait just to get a couple of times on the board. Obviously TC getting purple sectors because he's the first driver to set times on the board. But obviously everyone's going to maybe up the pace a little bit. I doubt everyone was showing their full hand in Q1. Oh, that was wide slightly from TC, but he's gotten away with it somehow. Not that it will do his overall time much good. Yellow's in sector 1. I think that's just the Red Bull getting out of the way. As TC gets the slipstream, or a slight slipstream off of Tixie. I think it was a bit too far down to do too much good, but it might help a little bit. Every 100th can make a difference, or even 1,000th. As the number 12 driver comes round with a 1:26.6 to open the accounts. Next up to cross the line is Duncan. who's made a better first run than he did last time, and he knocks TC off by 3/10. Puis is on his outlap. And what of James Taylor? He's on a run at the minute. I have no idea what is going on in the chat. 1:25.82 for James Taylor. So, not pulling any punches. Daniel showing me his telemetry for the time. Chance of rain in... Ooh, okay. Interesting. So I'm not going to say anything actually for the drivers because they can only really go off the weather forecast that is given to them. But some teams have found a way to get a more detailed view, as Tixie goes top of the timesheets by 2/10. We're starting to see a few more drivers coming out. That's one of the Red Bulls going by to complete a lap. It'll be Mike, who again shows pace but can sometimes be a little bit too rough. That wasn't a rough lap though. The exact same time as Tixie. But because Tixie set it first, he stays top of the timesheets. That's bloody impressive, that. Aussie coming around the final bend for his lap to start. Same for Catastrophius. The two McLarens. Tixie obviously belling for the pits. And Jan coming around the final bend. What can he do? Doesn't look to be the greatest lap in the world. It's 1:25 before he even hits the apex. And it's a 1:26.7, the slowest time so far. Probably had an error somewhere. We've got Shadhow. He's on outlap. Who else? Gamma B on an outlap, Roy on an outlap. So that should be... Who's that coming around? That's next phase. As he prepares to come across the line. And it's going to be a 1:26.9. Not bad for a banker, to be honest. You might say, oh well, he's back of the pack, but again, if it's a banker, you just want to get a time on the board. Something to say, you know, here's a time in case someone else messes up and I can get a few places ahead. Obviously looking to improve on that massively. The Red Bull of Rickety, next across the line. Rickety only did one run in Q1. He might get away with one run in Q2. Although it's still very, very close between all the drivers at the minute. Next up should be JTK. He's on outlap, actually. I stand corrected. Catastrophius will be next to set a time. We've got yellows. That's the Alfa Romeo just getting out of the way. And it's P8 for Catastrophius. Who else have we got? Shadhow. Followed by... That will be Gamma B. And Gamma B... potentially got a nice slipstream off of Shadhow. Shadhow rounds the bend and goes P7, not a bad effort. Gamma B though improves on that and goes P4. Who else have we got? Roy, next across the line. Roy's saying that the telemetry he's given me is just for you for the stream. But I'm not going to give the detail. It's a very accurate graph, but I'm not going to share the info with anyone else because that could be an unfair advantage. I should say that he's getting it through team telemetry, which is allowed provided you set it up, but some drivers just choose not to. I would encourage them to do so because it seems to be very accurate with its weather predictions. Because of course the game decides beforehand in the code how and when the rain is going to come. But obviously some drivers watch this stream, so I will not share it with you exactly. All I can tell you is that in the later part of the race there will be rain. So I'll leave you to keep an eye out for that. I'll also leave you to keep an eye out for JTK, who has displaced Tixie at the top of the timesheets by 3/10. So, with the opening sorties completed, I would tell you how much time is left in the session, except for the fact that we've got an Aston Martin going incredibly slowly. Whoa! And Shadhow power sliding his way into the pit lane there. Only a couple of drivers on an outlap at the minute. Jan and Ozzy. Next phase still in the pits. He needs to improve. But the bottom 5 at the minute, from the top down, will be TC Gaming, Catastropheus, Jan, Next Phase, and Ozzy. All looking for at elimination right now, but it's very close. All the drivers either in the 125s or the 126s, with the exception of Ozzy, who has yet to say a time, shows you how competitive this field really is. That they're all covered by, well, just over a second and a half between all of them. So, with 3 minutes to go, this will be the final run for most drivers. Duncan is on his outlap, so is Catastropheus. Jan is on the lap, as is Ozzy. Next phase also on his outlap. The top group tending to stay in the pits at the minute, leaving it as late as they dare. Remember, the later you leave it, the better condition the track is, but also the chance you'll come across traffic. Who will be first out of this group to cross the line? It should be Jan, as he comes round through Cops up towards Maggots and Beckett's. Cleaning up through there and onto the hangar straight. Couple more drivers popping out now. Everyone from P6 to P5 down is on a lap or outlap. Only the top 4 electing to stay in the box at the minute. Now they're gonna go. They've got to go soon. Jan will cross the line with 2 minutes to go on the track. How good a job does that do for his time? It's P7, so he's through. Knocks Shadhow into the drop zone. Ozzy is next to cross the line, but he's invalidated and he's running incredibly low on ERS. He will say it would have been a 127 anyway, and he's backed off. I think Ozzy is out. I think Ozzy's gone. Next phase is improving. Catastropheus is down, but may have enough time to get another lap in. As Duncan spins. He's tried to flick spin it, but it hasn't worked. And that's at the old pit lane entrance. Returns to the track safely, but how long has he got? He's got a minute. He should be able to make it. He needs to stop burning that ERS. He needs to turn that off. If he wants to have any hope of getting round again. Who else is on a lap at the minute? Just trying to see. Rickety is starting a lap. Shadhow will restart his lap. Catastrophe is well down, but he's going to do another run. Aussie will not have time for another run. Next phase is out as well. So both Alfa Romeos seem to be out of this session. How are the rest of the times looking? TC is improving by a 10th. Jan has retired from P7. He thinks he's done enough. Top 4, with the exception of Tixie, have decided to stay in the pits. Who else is coming around? Let's see. Yeah, that's Aussie bailing. Apologies for the flicking camera, it's hard to tell who's who. TC is improving by 3/10. Depending on how everyone else improves, this could be huge. He's currently in the drop zone. Can a Williams make it into Q3? His time is good enough for P7. Displaces Jan. That is a mighty time, considering. Puis is improving by 4/10. According to the sector notes, he should be in the 125s. Indeed he is. He goes P2. Rickety is now on the cusp. Speaking of Rickety, he's half a second up here. Jan, I think, might well be heading out of this session if things carry on as they are. As Rickety goes P5. Shadhow needs to improve by about half a second. Is it enough? He's currently in P12. He just makes it through and knocks Jan out. Jan is out of the session. Duncan is down by half a second. Catastrophe has improved, but only to P11. Duncan, I don't think, is going to improve unless... Oh, he spins on the final corner as well. As Tixie reclaims the top of the timesheets. That's it. So, your 5 eliminated drivers are Catastropheus, Jan, Duncan, Next Phase, and Aussie. All falling by the wayside. I think the surprise of the session there would have to be Jan. Retired because he was so confident he'd make it through. Was not to be. As we get the cursed camera angle. Looking at TC for a second there. The third person camera. And there you go. Your top 10 in the shade are Tixie, JTK, Puis Liper, Mike, Rickety, James, Gamma, Roy, TC, Shadhow are your top 10. And then the knockouts: Catastrophe is Jan, Duncan, Next Phase, and Aussie. So, the pace is close between everyone. This is shaping up to be a very interesting third qualifying session. So I just try and get back to the servers. Next phase saying he's struggling with understeer in maggots. Gamma B has found the voice chat function for the Discord, and he is. And apparently Tixie is getting jumped after the race. So, if anyone wants to check the paddock afterwards, that's what you're looking out for. Can someone please take the microphone away from Gamma B, please? Speaking of Gamma B, he's first out on track, followed by the McLaren of Tixie. So our cameraman lost him for a minute there. So, no more knockouts, a straight fight for pole. Who is going to start on top? Who is going to be stuck in the midfield? Time will tell. You can see on the screen the weather has brightened up a bit. The track will be warmer, should provide more grip. We should see those times coming down as the session goes on. But of course it also means the tyre wear will be increased. As Gamma B moving well clear. Tixie will be the first to cross the line at this pace. Hey, these parts where we're waiting for laps to start. This all gets far too quiet. But soon we shall have the screams of, well, modded V8s. As Tixie begins his run, the championship leader with the lucky number 7. Let's see what he can do. Looking nice and smooth so far. A 27.2 in the first sector. As he comes back past the old pit lane. It's old enough that I remember that's when the cars were actually in there. Been watching F1 for a while. 3 Maggots and Beckett's. Up to the braking zone. Around the final complex. And what will be the benchmark? What is the target to beat? The target is a 25.6. Not insurmountable. We've seen people beat that before. Is Mike... No, sorry, not Mike. Is Rickety going to be the one to do it? No, he's not. A 26.2 for the Red Bull driver. James Taylor has invalidated. And then it's the 2 Alfa Romeos. Aston Martins. I'm misspeaking terribly. Gamma will be first across the line. And he takes pole with a 25.4. His teammate comes around the final bend. And, oh, he was just starting his lap, I see. We have next up is going to be JTK in the Haas. Round the final bend. And he takes pole with a 25.1. Shad Howe is just starting his run, and Mike will be coming around the bend next. So we're knocking on the doors of the 24s, but we haven't hit them yet. Still yet to see a driver in the 24s. And it's going to stay that way as Mike only gets P3. 25.5. Who is next across the line? James Taylor should be next up in the Mercedes. But he's out of ERS, actually. I just saw it. How has he managed that? Understandably bailing for the pits. No point carrying on a run whenever you've got no ERS to boost your car. Roy will be next across the line then. And it's going to be it's P5 at 25.8. Now we keep an eye on Shadhow for his time. But he has bailed out. We don't have anyone else left on track, really. Roy is obviously coasting back to the pits. Tixie is going for his next run. He's down in P4 at the minute, which is surprising considering the early pace. But that might have just been the banker. We'll see what happens. Fortunately, one car to look at the minute. Let's see if Tixie can reclaim pole. Okay, let's see. Sorry, I was sorting a few things there. Looking at the sector times. 4/10 quicker for Tixie. It's purple sector 2, but 4/10 quicker would actually not see him on pole. It would be second to JTK. As everyone else is coming out for their presumably final runs. As around the final bend comes Tixie. Is it enough? It is enough for pole. Made up a good bit of time in the final sector. By 0.5 Tixie reclaims pole position. Now then, who's at the head of this queue? It's James Taylor who is at the head of the queue. Followed by TC Gaming, Pewis Liper, who has invalidated his outlap somehow. Gamma B is at the back there, so it'll be Roy next, and then JTK is on an outlap. So we have a lot of people to get through, and not a lot of time to do it, less than 1 minute 30 to go. So Tixie's already done his final run, that's him finished. 1:25.047 is the time to beat, and it will not be improved on by Tixie. So, the gauntlet is thrown down. It's the final runs for everyone. Let's see what you've got, boys. And no, I'm not being sexist there, it is all boys in here. This league is a sausage fest. Any girl racers are welcome. Anyone, any racer is welcome. You can be a fucking dog for all I care. As long as you race and you race cleanly, we're happy to have you. As James Taylor begins his run. It says Gamma B is on a run at the minute. Actually, Gamma B is. So Gamma B did start the lap before everyone else. He's coming across traffic. And he's actually come across his teammate there. Nice timing though to get the slipstream off him. This could help Gamma B a lot. He does keep it within track limits there. Oh, he's coming across traffic in the final corners. He should just get away with it. And indeed he will do, as across the line goes Gamma. It's 2/10 quicker, but it's still P3. So P3 is where Gamma will stay for his final run. Tixie retires in the pit lane. It's a purple sector 2 for TC apparently. As we go back on board with James Taylor. He's coming up to Maggots and Beckett. And around the final band, his final effort, the checker flag is waving. James Taylor's final effort is P2 on the grid. Missing out by, what, 3/400ths there? Next up will be the Haas of JTK, and he's already a 10th down, he's going to bail. So it's P3 for JTK at the minute. Mike is marginally improving. It's not going to be enough for pole though, not by a long shot. He's by half a second down on the pole time. And I think he will improve, but it just keeps him where he is. Next up, the Mercedes. Pewis goes to P7. Shadhow, who did not set a lap, stays P7, my apologies. Roy goes up to P5. I wish we'd changed the times on the top there. And that's it, finished across line. So TC did not improve, he will start P10. So there you have it. That is your confirmed grid order. Tixie on pole for the second time this season. James Taylor will take second. JTK in third. Gamma B fourth. Roy in fifth. Mike in sixth. Rickety in seventh. Shadhow in eighth. Pewis Liper in ninth. And TC Gaming in 10th. In the end, never really threatening the top 9 there, but solid effort to get into Q3 regardless. And we always say, like, you know, quality pace is one thing, race pace is something else entirely. What is the team radio saying? Mike and Gamma still having a go at each other. George telling them to stop. Be interesting to look into that as the season goes on. But it's a gloriously sunny start to the race. Look at that sun beating down. A rarity in the UK. Only gets rarer the further north you get as well. So, rule Britannia, but who will rule the track? Can Tixie make it 2 in a row for a brilliant start to his season, or will we get some surprises? All will be revealed in just a few moments as the drivers make last changes to their setups and perfect their strategies. and then we shall be racing. As here we go, 5 red lights. Remember, there's no formation lap, 5 red lights. And we are racing at Silverstone. It's a good getaway from pretty much everyone in the field. Gamma B getting the jump on JTK. JTK down to 4th. Couple of small moves in midfield. We've got Chaos at the back. That's Holiest Test. No, sorry, it's Upper. And Aussie, who had a collision. Roy seemed to take damage as well there. Up at the front, Tixie under pressure from James Taylor. Gamma B has fallen back behind JTK as well. Not too sure what happened to the back, presumably just a quick touch in the right-hander, as Gamma B is pressurising the front runners. And up at the front, James Taylor goes to the inside, trying to take Tixie. He'll have the line, but he can't carry the speed. Slight bump there. You saw Gamma B raising his hand at JTK. Oh, close to each other on side pods, as Gamma B gets a tank slapper on and does collide with JTK. Didn't seem to be any damage, but a 5-second penalty for Gamma B as a virtual safety car is called for the debris. There you can see the strategies. We'll just have a quick look at the tyres. And James Taylor, the only one on the softs. Everyone else on the hards are mediums. And Gamma B with that 5-second penalty. Unfortunately, by the rules, that is just going to screw his race over regardless of what happens, because by the rules, if you serve the 5 seconds, it cannot be removed from your finishing time. Seems to be a bit of a silly rule, but then I suppose, what is going on here? As Upper Banan gets a drive-through for speeding under the safety car, JTK, that was a bit sneaky, trying to go alongside Gamma B before the safety car really came in. You saw the big winners and losers off the line there. Rickety is dropping down. Rickety got damage. He's in the pits. And along with Roy, Ian, I see one shark actually did make it into the session. Mike, we've got 6 cars in the pits as Castillo gets 5 seconds for speeding in the pit lane. And they're all nose to tail through here. James Taylor, despite being on those soft compound tires, is not making the pace that we thought he would, as we get another virtual safety car at the back there. That was, who is that? That's one of the, that's Holiest Tester's DNF. Not sure what happened to him. Still only a virtual safety car, mind you. We'll try and find out what happened. But Tixie has held on to the lead. Apologies there, just had to answer a rather urgent message. So what is happening here with One Shark and Aussie? They're not in the pits. And in terms of values, I could have sworn that there was a penalty, there was a drive-through for Aussie, but he must have served it. I didn't realise he could serve under VSC. Maybe he timed the drive-through just right. But anyway, these 4 at the front have been giving us some good entertainment early on, provided they can keep it clean. And we're racing again. And JTK immediately under pressure from Gamma. Running slightly wide on exit there as well, I just saw. As Shadhow tries to overhaul Puis. Puis defending for all he's worth. What can Shadhow do here? Let's see. Gamma B all over the back, trying to make use of the mediums while he can. You can tell he's got more pace. He needs to overhaul JTK as Mike retires from the session. That's just in the pit lane. He's just called it quits. He did retire in the pit lane, so that's okay. So 2 DNFs already in this Grand Prix. As Gamma goes for the move into Stone. JTK giving a little bit of argy-bargy, but making it through. So Gamma B up into 3rd place. Further back, One Shark, who joined the session later and couldn't do quali, is currently in P12. Tixie setting the fastest lap of the race. Shark looking for points in the Ferrari at the minute, you'd say, as Duncan goes to the pit lane. Has he got damage? It's hard to tell from that angle. Up at the front, or in the midfield I should say, Catastrophe and Next Phase are locked in combat. Next Phase overhauling the Ferrari driver. But Catastrophe will get the DRS. Actually, as does Next Phase. Next Phase was just within a second of Shadhow. As Jan sets the fastest lap of the race, but he's down in P17. Duncan losing out on the time in the pit stop and falling ever further back. Rickety and Oper making moves, but Rickety now 19 seconds. 13th place where the cutoff for where those guys who had to repair damages is. So Rickety's got a long way to go. As in the background we see Upper Banham spinning and dropping down the order, unfortunately for him, as Gamma gets another penalty. 3 seconds for multiple warnings. He's pushing a little too hard. Aussie and One Shark now locked in combat. This is the tail end of the front running pack. But more intriguing is Gamma B, as we get the worst camera angle imaginable. And what's happening here? Oh, we've got James Taylor in the pits. That's why all the positions were jutting about. We'll get back to One Shark and Aussie. It's the closest battle on track at the minute. And Shark will find his way inside the points, if only through the pit-stopping Mercedes. But credit where it's due. For not having really any quality or any practice, he's doing a darn fine job, is One Shark. Catastropheus battling. I'm getting deja vu. It's Ferrari and Alfa Romeo again. Ferrari coming out on top again, is it not? Catastropheus goes a bit wide. Next Phase trying to carry the speed, but he's on the hard compound tires, doesn't have the grip. And Catastropheus will take 6th place. Will he not, though? Because Next Phase is coming back at him, seems to have a good low straight line speed. Thinks better of it, doesn't want to do a Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen into Cop's corner. But he is looking at that Ferrari rear wing, and you sense with the DRS straight coming up, it may only be a matter of time. Sorry, I just realised the telemetry and stuff is not on there. As here comes Next Phase to the inside with the DRS. Straightforward a move as you like, reclaims that 6th position. Lovely though these onboard shots are, camera, I'd like to see more of the action of the cars, you know. Maybe one day they'll listen to us. Aussie is still not giving up on that 10th place. He's battling with Shark still. Between him and JTK, close battle on track. In fact, JTK is actually closing up on Gamma B. This the battle for 2nd position. And Gamma going slightly wide there, but the car positioned in such a way that JTK could not get on the throttle. And Puis Leiper is joining these this duo. DRS will probably secure 2nd place for JTK. Could have secured 3rd for Puis, but not on this occasion. Slight neck code there, you can see a bit of bumping and barging, but no harm done. But all this time, Tixie is just pulling away, albeit not as much as he was in Spain. 2.2 the gap at the minute. And of course Gamma B with 8 seconds of penalties to contend with as well. So that's, I mean, you can maybe dispute the 3 seconds, as Catastropheus also gets 3 seconds for multiple warnings. You can maybe dispute that 3 seconds if, say, you got knocked off the track or something, but track limits very rarely get overhauled, as Aussie overhauls Shark for P10. And that 5 seconds, as I say, when Gamma pits, he will have to serve that time penalty. There's no way around it. You can't just hold it off and ride it out with the stewards. The game forces you to take it. So Gamma B in essence 5 seconds behind this pack, which probably would put him by P7, if not maybe even P8. Well, maybe, no, I'd say P7, probably on count back at the minute. Obviously a long way to go in this race, we're only on lap 7. And let's see what they all can do. This is still the closest battle on track at the minute, as Gamma B, gosh, that Mercedes is close. Surely DRS will secure it for Puis. Gamma B has the DRS as well, but the straight line speed of the Mercedes, there you can see it going by. And nearly actually getting alongside JTK as well. But Puis up into 3rd place in the Mercedes. I'm assuming that's a reserve, unless Percy Geely has renamed himself. But either way, it's an impressive performance so far. Gamma B may have to swallow some humble pie at the end of this. There is a lot of crack talking going on in the voice chats and the general chat, and Gamma B certainly not performing the way he wants to at the minute. He's got those penalties and he's been running wide and he's lost places. 2.5 the gap at the front, but Puis plans to do something about it. I think he's up to P2. Is he on the... he's on the hards, so he will be going longer than Tixie. Watch out for Puis. There's every chance he could win this race. Still the same for JTK, even for the likes of Gamma and stuff. But Shadhow has also been lurking in the background. Currently in P4. On the hards, just minding his own business. TC Gaming has had another pretty decent start as well, up from 10th to 7th. Catastropheus has made moves as well. Biggest loser, unfortunately, is James Taylor in this race. Down 10 places. Gamma B also down 7, but of course he's in the pits. And it's an agonizingly slow pit lane around this track, let me tell you. Because you just have... it's a 37-mile-an-hour speed limit. Which, you know, when you're driving down the road, you're doing nearly 40, you think, oh, that's not too bad a speed. I'd like to go 50, but 40 is just fine. In an F1 car, it's a snail's pace. It's so slow, you have to stay in first gear, and you're just so tempted to floor the throttle, as Shadhow did a bit too much and runs wide at Cops. Speaking of running wide at Cops, that's next phase, who is getting to grips with Catastropheus again. These two are inseparable. So are Aussie and Shark, actually. The Ferrari team and the Ferrari sister team, effectively. As TC nearly loses it coming out of Beckett, and DRS will just secure the place for Catastropheus. He left that a little bit late. Next phase certainly seems to have more speed at this stage of the race. Whether the mediums are starting to go off or not remains to be seen, because of course Catastropheus on the medium compound tire, the yellow marked medium compound, the white hard compound tire, not usually as quick but does last longer. If you want an analogy, it's sort of like sugary food versus carbohydrate food. The softs are your sugar, you know, your sweets and your energy tablets and stuff like that. They give a great little burst of energy and then they die back really quickly and slow you down. The hards, by contrast, are like carbohydrates. Don't really give you bursts of energy, but they will release their energy consistently over the tire lifespan. Medium is somewhere in the middle, but the mediums do not seem to be holding on well enough, as Catastropheus relinquishes 5th place again to next phase. And the gap indeed is coming down a bit at the front. Remember, Tixie on the mediums, he will have to pit earlier than the likes of Puis and JTK, who are keeping each other in fine company. Shadhow seems to have dropped back a little bit. The gap is about 3 seconds, but JTK should have Puis with DRS here. And if they're giving each other DRS, they're also giving themselves like little boosts, just very slowly. And that could help them both catch up to Tixie. The question is, when is Tixie going to blink? When are the medium runners going to pit? As we just saw Catastropheus next phase, mostly the overtakes coming from DRS today, it has to be said, rather than around the track. Who have we got in the memers? As Catastropheus actually is the first to blink, he will be the first to get off the mediums. Tixie is on the mediums as well. Magnetic, who's that? Aussie is on the mediums as well. Rickety and Roy and Casito on the mediums. They pitted earlier. Gamma B has just gone on to the mediums. That's why I said lap 1 beside his. So The first driver has blinked. How long can Tixie hold this pace for? He's okay at the minute. Remember, of course, he's been racing in clean air without battle, so he's not having to work his tyres as hard. He can control the pace, conserve rubber, conserve energy. You can see he's got 68 ERS, which is less than the drivers behind him, but still a high amount to play with. And the gap is 2.6, so it's fluctuating slightly back and forth, but not enough to concern Tixie at the minute that he's losing pace. Of course, it helps that these two are battling each other and distracting each other, costing them a bit of time. As next phase gets a penalty for 3 seconds for track limits, that'll be from coming off of cops. Track limits are on strict, we should say. Is it a bit harsh? No, not really. If you are unable to keep it on the track, then you're overdriving the car, pretty much. F1 drivers take it to the limit, not over the limit. Which is the same you should think about when you're drinking. This is a public safety announcement by PowerF1. Back to the main battle on track. Looking at the gaps, it is still JTK and Puis who are pulling away from Shadow. They're not losing super huge amounts of pace, but it is just allowing Tixie to control his pace and just manage the gap, manage the field. DRS for Puis. JTK seems to have a bit of a gap this time. It might not be enough for the Mercedes to overhaul the Haas. Indeed, it's not. But if he stays with him, he should get him on the hangar straight. Possibly even in the run-up to cops. That's a beautiful camera angle, game. Thank you for that. And that's not sarcasm. That was beautiful. We need more helicopter cam shots. Looking down the field, again, this is the closest gap on track. Although we've got TC Gaming slowly catching next phase, 4.5 tenths the gap, and it's coming down slowly. Who else is close? Jan is close to Roy in the battle for 13th. But this is the mainstay at the moment. So not quite as eventful in terms of the overtakes as Spain was, but still a close contest throughout the field. And this the battle for second between Puis and JTK. As next phase and TC, whoa, that was a good bit of side-by-side action. Next phase seeming to struggle a bit with his tyres, and this is allowing Magnetic to catch up as Aussie gets 5 seconds for speeding in the pit lane. That's all he needed, because that will ruin his battle with Shark. But we cut back to what is now effectively a three-way battle for P5. Although next phase has the penalty, you still want to be ahead on track. And TC showing another fine performance. Where his quali pace may be lacking, he does make up for it somewhat in the race. DRS open, but thinks better of it. Will probably hold on for the hangar straight. And meanwhile at the front, Puis looking to make a move on JTK. They've just gone past cops. They're heading into Maggots and Beckett's. Tucking in behind for now. But surely with DRS he'll have him. The problem is when one of them gets ahead, they never get the chance to really streak or break away from their opponent. Puis with a lot of ERS, but so too JTK. They're both saving it for each other. But the gap is still increased a little bit. 2.9 the gap now between Puis and Tixie. But irrespective of that, further on back, that gap was huge. The DRS is really powerful on TC's car. TC does make it up into P5 as next phase goes to the outside. He'll have the inside from the next corner. That was a lovely move, although we didn't see much of it from the onboard over the shoulder camera because we're looking over the wrong shoulder. As TC still there on the outside. He'll be brave to go around the outside here of turn 1, but he does brave it out, does the American, and he is ahead. But whether he wants to back off to get the DRS, he'll have the inside. He's just ahead at the apex there. And I think that's a smart play by next phase. Next phase should get the DRS. And indeed he does. Yep, there's the DRS. So it's all over there for TC. But TC sticking his nose in, keeping the Alfa Romeo honest. The only thing he wasn't being honest about there, the Alfa Romeo, was the track limits. Next phase, get back on the track. And this is a really good battle for P5. Magnetic bailed out of it for the pits. He's down to 13th now. The gap at the front now 3 seconds. So come down, still hovering around that margin. JTK and Puis. Again, another overtake with DRS there. Will Puis come back at him down into the final complex? Not on this occasion. TC with the DRS as well. To the outside. And he overtakes next phase. Next phase will try and come back at him, but gets a little bit of a tank slapper, which costs him the opportunity to get alongside. And that should be all she wrote for this lap. Oh, and a bit of argy-bargy going on there. Next phase bumping the rear wing of TC, it looked like, and giving him a little bit of a twitch. These two getting really feisty with each other. No quarter asked nor given, as TC really needs to back off here and get the DRS, but he's not. He's too tunnel visioned. And next phase was behind. Next phase will get DRS again here. And sure enough, he does overhaul, and it's early on that he overhauls, so that's going to cost TC a bit of time. Rickety and Roy are in the pits. James Taylor gets past one Shark on the Wellington straight. And Shark running a bit wide there in the process. Cutting back to these two because they're giving us a great battle. But if TC needs to play smart, he needs to know when to hang back to get the DRS on the Wellington straight. Because he's overhauling him in the third sector. And it looks like TC is marginally quicker in Maggots and Beckett's, although he's messed it up on this occasion. He will still get DRS here. Will it be enough to overhaul next phase on this occasion? Next phase pulling away a little bit. He's quite far back. I think next phase actually might be safe for this one. Yep, TC thinking better of it. But still right with next phase. And next phase bailing for the pits. As has JTK. So TC goes on through in P5 and will presumably become P4. Yes, it will. Shark is also in the pits. I think next phase broke a little bit early there, but it looks like, because he's only pulling into the, was only coming around the corner there now. Felt like I know it's a slow pit lane, but it felt like it took a really long time, and that was a bit of a hold on the pit lane as well. Not the quickest of stops. One Shark, in fact, coming out right behind the Alfa Romeo driver. Magnetic finding his way through. And where are these two going to come out? Gosh, you see what I mean with it being an eternally slow pit lane. Next phase will come out in P11. Shark will be P12. They will come out ahead of Upper Banan. Then you can see the Alpine in the background. So a nice bit of clear track in front of them. Clear track for everyone, really. Now it's just a case of managing the lap times. The closest battle on track at the minute is Jan chasing down Roy, but that's only for P15 at the minute. Still, we'll take action wherever we can get it. As Tixie and Puis pit at the same time. Both drivers in the pit lane together, as is Shadhow. The top three all pitting at the same moment. Will TC join them? Now that's interesting, because Puis was on the hard compound tyre. So has Tixie taken the mediums on for longer? Or has Puis taken... That's why we've got a safety car. Why do we have a safety car? Hello? We have a full course safety car, and I, for the life of me, do not know why. Well, this is very interesting. So everyone has done at least one stop. James Taylor, the winner here, because he made his pit stop, and JTK as well, before the safety car came out, so they were able to jump a few people. Although, albeit TC will not lose as much time as he would have. He'll probably lose out to Magnetic here. But he will come out P7. So well ahead of his rival next phase. Next phase in the pits again. He's down to P12 now. It's basically a free pit stop, but I'm confused as to why we have a safety car. See if I can get the equivalent of team radio up here. Yeah, I cannot see any reason for that, to be honest. Unless someone... Did someone take damage? It's not Casito, he's all the way at the back, but it's not him. Doesn't seem like anyone took damage. Not too sure, maybe someone has a toggle. Check the code, did someone toggle safety car? Oh, it gives us a wee moment to catch our breath. And surely means that everyone who's stopped now can make it to the end, so we should have a close fight between everyone. Gamma saying JTK took him out. Gamma be down in P11 at the minute. So, not 100% sure what that's all about. As James Taylor pits and will lose a fair amount of track position. But it might be worth it in the long run. Rickety and Gamma also in the pits. I am unable to give any further information, is there? Next facing, he has no force feedback. So lights are still on the safety car. We're going to have another lap of this. We're getting some pings. So next phase saying he has force feedback, but it's his wheel is vibrating all the time, almost like he's constantly running over the curbs. Not too sure about that one. I only know the problem where you lose force feedback. So let's get the details of the tires, because presumably there'll be no more stops. So Tixie on the softs, most of the field on mediums. Why are they on inters? Why are they on inters? I mean, they're all out of the points, they might as well take a gamble, but is it raining at the minute? I don't see any rain. We've got 8 to go. and half the field is on intermediates. Now, granted, they can coax them around. I mean, it's cloudier than it was, but I don't see rain being imminent. Safety car will come in this lap. I mean, as I say, they may as well take the gamble. They've got nothing to lose. Next face saying he will finish the race even with his busted car. That's what we like to hear. If I check my, if I check the DMs here, hold on. What did Roy say? So it's based on time. Rain, chance of rain increasing. Rain should be about 45 minutes in, which I think they've gone too early. I know they had to take the risk, but I think they've gone too early. Speaking of going, Tixie's away and has left Pewis. No, Pewis got to grips with him fairly well. JTK got left behind a little bit, but we're racing again on lap 19 of 26. Let's see what can be done. But Tixie will have the tyre advantage, as he gets 3 seconds for multiple warnings. He's already in last place, so he wasn't missing out much. James Taylor and Aussie dueling for places. That's the battle for P10. But here comes Rickety! And Rickety says, thank you very much, I will take that off your hands, and gets ahead in the battle for P10. Up the front, One Shark is battling with TC. Fierce rivals. At the best of times. And this is far from the best of times, because a lot of points are up for grabs again. TC scored well in his first race of the season, got P4 in Spain. There are raindrops on the camera, but will it be enough to warrant a change to the intermediate tyres? The rain is coming down. Catastrophius gets 3 seconds, so that means TC can breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. He's not under as much pressure. Is that why Tixie went to the softs? Was he planning on making another stop to the inters? But even then, other drivers are battling for the pits. TC goes on ahead. In fact, most drivers going on ahead. Only a few feeling that they need to go on to inters. Probably being aware of how quickly the rain came down in Spain. But right now, I think he can maybe wait till the end of this lap. Gamma B going to the inters, yep. We've got lots of drivers, yep. Anyone who's pitting is going to the inters. TC starting to hold these boys up a little bit, isn't he? DRS has not been deactivated yet. But 5th place is about to be removed from TC's grasp, is it not? Inside line. And positioning the car beautifully there. Well done, TC Gaming. James Taylor now under pressure from Rickety. These the soft runners, of course. So they do have a pace advantage very early on, but the softs burn away quite quickly. James Taylor being sensible, not taking the risk going into cops. And TC getting a good run there through cops, but TC has burned through most of his ERS, as has actually Taylor. And a little bit of a tank slapper. I wonder if TC will bail for the pits at the end of this lap. It might be the sensible course of action. We'll see what the front runners do, as Rickety looks to the outside of James Taylor, but is unable to do it at this time. Is he going to go on? Yes, he is. They're all going on. They're all sticking with it, as DRS has been enabled, because we have been racing for 2 laps. Rickety losing out to Catastrophius, but they're starting to slide everywhere. Have the front runners missed a trick, or can they hold on? Well, they have to hold on for 1 more lap now. TC is pulling away ever so slightly. Meanwhile, Rickety and James Taylor, this battle for effectively 5th place, they're all involved in the scrap for it, is really hotting up. 5 cars in a battle at the same time, although TC is trying his best to stay out of one. The soft runners trying to make the most of their tyres before they probably inevitably have to pit for the inters. The rain is coming down much heavier. You can see splashes on the track, which means there are small puddles forming. I get the feeling that drivers will be pitting at the end of this lap. Now, the question is, number 1, how much time have the inter runners lost while driving on the inters in the dry conditions? And also, how much performance have they lost from those inters? Depending on the time lost, of course, the third question is, how many places will they make up when these front runners decide to pit? So many unanswered questions, because we can see what's happening on the screen, we can see the track getting greasier, but we don't know how it feels for the drivers. They seem fairly confident so far. But you remember in Spain how quickly everything went to pot. You can see James Taylor recharging his ERS. Does a little flick to try and throw Rickety off. Rickety will be wise to that. And sticks his car up the outside. TC is not pitting. And oh! Rickety and James Taylor was trying to go for the pits, and Rickety was on his outside and they couldn't get through. TC's going for another lap, as are most of the field, it seems, who are on the dries. The front runners are carrying on. James Taylor is in the pits. So is that Shadhow in the pits as well. Rickety did survive, if only just. So Gamma B is the leader of the Interpack. You can see the TC is really taking it much more cautiously now. Catastrophe is not so much, but that may come back to bite him. Of course, Catastrophe has penalties. And TC finds himself in the exact same position he did last time. He is currently in P4. But I doubt he'll stay that way. I don't think he can take the drives to the end. I don't think it's worth the gamble. He'd be far better off pitting. He may lose out to the likes of Gamma next phase and Yan and stuff. But, you know, that's the risk you take. It's certainly intermediate conditions now. Although, having said... it's a risk. It is a risk. There's 5 laps to go, including this one, and the track could get much worse within those 5 laps. We've only been racing without safety car for 3 laps, and look at how quickly the conditions have changed, as Tixie has lost the lead to Puis. Oh, a bit of argy-bargy going on there. As Tixie goes on ahead, he's trying to make these tyres last. He's trying to go to the end. All the front runners are. They feel, what else can they do? So is this a golden opportunity for Gamma B? He's on the correct tyre. The gaps are, well, at least up to P5, as TC does bail for the pits. He's playing the safe option. He'll lose a fair few positions, but if the weather gets much worse, he might find himself making those positions back up again. Their lights are flashing. That means we are in wet weather conditions. And the pace of the front runners has dropped right off. Gamma B is making heavy inroads into these drivers at the front. But is there enough time? The gap, of course, between like the top 3, I think P4 may be on the cards for Gamma at the minute. TC Gaming all the way down to 15th, possibly 16th by the time he gets out behind James Taylor. He's right in that pack, and well, it's hard to say at the minute. We will have to wait until the end of the race for the post-mortem to see if staying on the drives was the right call. Shadow gets 3 seconds. Tixie, obviously going for a dry setup, hoping the race would be over before this point, is really under pressure from Puis. The Mercedes driver hovering all over the McLaren. I'm getting flashbacks to Russia, where Norris's win was so cruelly taken from him. What can Puis do? Can he get through? Can Tixie survive for another 3 laps after this one? JTK also hovering around in the background just in case any of these ones make a mistake. They're having to brake much earlier. You can see how the weather is affecting their pace. You just can't get on the power. That's the main problem with the wet weather. You just cannot get your foot on the throttle. Unlike the intermediate runners, as Rickety bails for the pits. That is a very late call. He will drop a lot of places. Gamma B now up to P6 and right on the tail of Catastropheus. P4, I said, was maybe the best he could hope for. Aussie is like holding the gap. It's 9.3 at the minute. Rickety dropping well down the order. As we got yellows, as Rickety retires, he's retired in the pit lane. He's realised he made a mistake. Personally, I would have just stuck out on the softs and see what happens. You were going to retire anyway, so what difference does it make? As Gamma does overhaul Catastropheus, of course, no DRS anymore. But he doesn't need it with those intermediate tyres. P5 for Gamma B, and next target for him will be Aussie. Catastropheus and the top 4 are the only ones still on the dry compound tyres. More of necessity than anything else, and Catastropheus will be the first to suffer as a result. Roy gets ahead of next phase. And Puis still trying to find a way past. Tixie looking to hold on for his second win of the season. And it's looking promising at the minute as Pewis goes deep. The softs still operating better in these conditions. They don't need as much temperature as the mediums, and the water obviously taking a lot of the tyre temperature out. There's 2 laps to go, including this one, because we're on lap 25. Gamma B is up to P4, but I don't think he'll get any higher than that, barring a mistake between these two, which would give JTK the win. But Gamma has made a decent fight back and will hopefully, based on what he's saying, will probably look to get some penalties removed or at least applied to JTK. But with 2 to go, can Pewis possibly overhaul the McLaren of Tixie? Roy getting ahead of Catastrophius for 6th place. As we have a grey bell going on here for 6th, 7th. And 5th, 6th and 7th, I should say, Roy. And next phase getting past Aussie. The dry runners really struggling here. But TC, he just hasn't had the time to make up the time that he lost. So probably was the right call to stay out. But then, you know, we all saw how quickly the tyres went off on, you know, back in Spain. So, you know, in hindsight is 20/20, as they say. But the top 3 looking to prove that it was the right call to stay on the dries. We are on the final lap. If Pewis is going to do anything for the lead of this race, he's got to do it soon. But I don't think he can overhaul Tixie. He's staying with him, but anywhere he's trying to gain time, he ends up just snatching a wheel, snatching a brake, losing time. And Tixie is just keeping it cool, calm and collected as Jan gets 5 seconds for speeding in the pit lane as he retires from the session. Again, I don't know why drivers retire like that, because if you're tied on points, they will look back at all your finishing positions. So even if you're outside the points, the higher your finishing position, the better it is for you overall. So that will be a recorded 17th for Jan, because he did make it close enough to the end. Catastrophius with a time penalty there for his struggles as well. Hasn't worked out for him. Hasn't really worked out for Aussie either. But it's all been working out well for the man in front on the camera here, Tixie, as he looks good for his 2nd win of the season. One last chance is there. Get a clean exit here, Pewis, and maybe you can make a move down into the final corner. He's looking to go for it. To the inside. Oh, this is going to be tight. It'll be the inside line. Who can get on the power quicker? On the final corner, Pewis has got him. Pewis wins the British Grand Prix. Tixie denied on the final corner. What a finish. They crash across the line, but it doesn't matter. And Tixie's AI nearly wiping out next phase, I believe it was. But Pewis denies Tixie the win, and the AI is rear-ending each other again. JTK will go on to finish 3rd. Gamma B recovers to 4th. Roy in 5th.